Good morning, everyone. I am Belita James, and I am Director of Program Operations for the Children's Trust of Alachua County. Thank you for joining today's public deliberation of scores for the summer camp RFP. With me from the Children's Trust, we have our data support coordinator, Demetrica Tyson, program specialist, Amali Bethune. Also, we have Christy Goldwire, which is our Chief Operating Officer, as well as Scott Sumner, who is our Chief Financial Officer. And with that, we also have our review team, which includes Matthew Trom, also Dion Carruthers, Erica Towns. Not present is Sinton Alford. She is also a part of our review team. This is a public meeting to share the final scores of the summer camp RFP. Only staff and review team members are permitted to speak. Public comment is not allowed during deliberations. However, review team members may adjust their scores if they choose. Children Trust staff are responsible for ensuring that the scoring rubric is used as designed. Each applicant was evaluated in the following areas. That would be organizational capacity and description, also summer camp description and implementation, the budget, provider video, site agreement letter. Additionally, with this RFP, it allowed for bonus points up to 10 points, 5 points for applicants proposing services in rural areas that include Archer, Hawthorne, Lake Cross, and Waldo. 5 points for applicants proposing 8 weeks or more of summer camp programming. Organizations with a final score of 70 or higher will be recommended to advance to the next phase. However, there are several important considerations. A recommendation does not guarantee the proposed funding level or amount. Recommended applicants undergo contract negotiations, which may result in changes in proposed funding or services. All awards are contingent upon available funding. This RFP has an allocation of 1.8 million. While the total amount requested from applicants exceeds that amount, this is not something that is unusual for RFPs. Therefore, funding decisions will begin with the highest scoring applicants and continue down to those who scored at least 70. The trust board does have the authority to increase the allocation for this RFP if they should choose to do so. Lastly, even if an applicant advances, they must still meet the requirements and intent of the RFP. If during contract negotiation or further staff review, it is determined that the applicant's proposal does not meet the RFP's intent, funding will not be awarded. With that being said, I will share my screen and we will begin to review the scores for the summer camp RFP. So for the first application that we will review, I just want to walk you through it first here of the applications that were submitted, the names, the reviewers, the scores, the average final score. Here you will see the areas, the criteria that was scored, summer camp, organizational capacity, all of these things I listed earlier, the summer camp description and implementation, excuse me, the site agreement letter, budget score, provider score. Also, if you keep going, you will see bonus points that may or may not have been applied. So with the first application, we have 1,000 Voices of Florida with an average score of 84. And I do want to say that if any of the reviewers want to change their scores as we go through, just take you can take yourself off mute and let me know that if you have had any further reviews since you have submitted these final scores. So with 1,000 Voices of Florida, Inc., their average score is 84. Here you can see where the These are their scores from the reviewers with a average final score of 84. Do we have any of the reviewers that would like to change their score? Okay. So we will move now to the next, which would be Alachua County Board of County Commissioners with an average score, final average score of 70.25. Here you can see that all the scores have been entered for each criteria. Here are all the final scores from each reviewer. Again, with the final score of 70.25. At this time, if any reviewer would like to change their score, you may take yourself off mute and do so at this time. The next organization we're looking at is Williams Temple Church with an average final score of 77.5. You can see here that all areas have been scored. And here are the final scores for all the reviewers, which leads us back to the final score of 77.5. And if there are any changes, you may speak to it at this time. Okay. Next, we have behavior bricks with a final average score of 84. And here you can see that all the areas have been scored. All the reviewers have put in their final scores here, which again brings us to the final average score of 84 for behavior bricks. If there are any changes, you may speak to it at this time. Next, we have Boys and Girls Club of Northeast Florida. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
84 for the Boys and Girls Club or the other previous?
I'm sorry.
Was that 84 score for the Boys and Girls Club? I got, or is the that for the bricks? Because I see a 77.5.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me go back. It says what's the Florida 84, Alachua County 70.25, Williams Temple 77.5, and Behavior Bricks is 84.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And please let me know if I make a mistake with the reading. I may have skipped the line, so thank you. Boys and Girls Club of Northeast Florida will be 88.75 for a final average score. If you can see here, all the reviewers have entered their scores here. And over here, you can see that all scores have been entered for each criteria, which brings us back to a final average score for Boys and Girls Club to be 88.75. If there are any changes, you may speak to it at this time. Next is Camp Makery with an average final score of 88. Here you can see that all criteria has been scored by each reviewer. Their scores are here, which brings us to an average score of 88 for Camp Makery. If there are any changes, you may speak to it at this time. Okay. Community Impact Corporation has a final average score of 92. All reviewers have entered their scores here. And you can see that every area has been scored by each reviewer, which brings us back to a final score of 92 for Community Impact Corporation. Are there any changes? Okay. Moving to Cultural Arts Coalition with a final average score of 76.75, with all of the reviewers having their scores in, and each criteria has been scored by each reviewer, which brings us to an average final score for Cultural Arts Coalition for 76.75. If there are any changes, you may speak to it at this time. Dance Alive, Inc. has an average score of 77.75. All the reviewer scores are here, and you can see that all of the scores have been entered for each criteria, which brings us to, again, to an average score of 77.75 for Dance Alive, Inc. If there are any changes, let us know at this time. Next, we have Deeper Purpose Community Church with an final average score of 88.25. All scores by reviewers have been added. Each criteria has been scored by each reviewer, which leads us back to a final score of 88.25 for Deeper Purpose. If there are any changes, please let us know at this time. Gainesville Area Community Tenants Association has a final average score of 98.75. All review team members have entered their scores here, and each criteria has been scored. Final average score for Gainesville Area Community Tennis Association is 98.75. Gainesville Circus Center has a final average score of 96, which each reviewer has entered their scores, and each criteria has been scored, which led to our final average score of 96 for Gainesville Circus Center. If there are any changes, please let us know at this time. Girls Place, Inc., with a final average score of 92.75. All reviewers have entered their scores. Each criteria has been scored, which leads us to a final score of 92.75 for Girls Place. If there are any changes, please let us know at this time. Greater Duval Neighborhood Association has a final score of 72.75. All reviewers have entered their scores here. All criteria areas have been scored. Final score for Greater Duval Neighborhood Association is 72.75. Hagios Early Learning Center, average score is 74.5. With all the reviewer scores being here, every area has been scored, which gives us a final score of 74.5 for, I believe that's Hagios Early Learning Center. I am STEM with a final, are there any changes for Hagios Early Learning Center? I am STEM final average score is 101. All reviewer scores are here. Each area has been scored, which leads us to a final score for I am STEM of 101. Are there any changes at this time? IGB Education Corporation, final score is 86, with all reviewer score being added and each area being scored. Final score for IGB is 86. Please let us know if you have any changes. Just for Us Education, final average score is 92.5. Each area has been scored, and every reviewer has entered their score, which leads us to a final average score of 92.5. If there are any changes, please let us know at this time. Kids Count in Alachua County, final average score is 85.25. All reviewer scores have been added, and you can see that every area has been scored, which leads us to a final average score of 85.25 for Kids Count. If there are any changes, you can let us know at this time. Limitless Adventures has a final score of 80.75. All reviewers have entered their scores here. All areas have been scored by each reviewer, which leads us to a final score for Limitless Adventures of 80.75. If there are any changes, please let us know at this time. Mirror Image Education and Leadership has a final score of 81, with all reviewer scores being entered here and every area being scored here, which gives us a final score of 81 for Mirror Image Education and Leadership. If there are any changes, please let us know. Mount Pleasant United Methodist Church has a final average score of 54.5, with all reviewer scores being here. And you can see that each area or each criteria has been scored, which leads us to a final score of 54.5 for Mount Pleasant United Methodist Church. If there are any changes, feel free to make them at this time. Palm Breeze Youth Services has a final average score of 63.5, with all reviewers entering their scores here. You can see that every area has been scored, which leads us back to a final average score of 63.5 for Palm Breeze Youth Services. If there are any changes, please let us know at this time. Star Center Children's Theater has a final average score of 79.25. All reviewer scores have been entered. Each criteria has been scored, which leads us back to the final scores here and a final average score of 79.25 for Star Center Children's Theater. If there are any changes, you may do so at this time. The Concrete Rose Foundation, final average score 87. All reviewers have entered their scores here. Each criteria area has been scored, which leads us back to their scores. And the final average score is 87 for Concrete Rose Foundation. Are there any changes? Traveling Art Camp, final average score 93.25. All reviewer scores have been entered here. Each criteria has been scored by each reviewer, which leads them back to their scores here. And our average score, final average score for Traveling Art Camp is 93.25. Are there any changes? University of Florida Summer Camp UF Crop, final average score is 80. All reviewer scores are here. You can see that each area has been scored, which leads us to the final score that they gave on a final average score of 80 for UF Crop. Are there any changes at this time? Lastly, we have University of Florida Veterinarian School Summer Camp. You have all your reviewers have entered their scores here with an average score of 82.5. All criteria has been scored, which leads us to a final average score of 82.5 for University of Florida Vet Summer Camp. Are there any changes? I believe I have stopped sharing my screen. This concludes the score review of Summer Camp RFP. Remember that on April 7th, all applicants that have scored 70 points or more will be recommended to the board. The recommendation will be for staff to begin contract negotiations with those organizations. We welcome you to attend the meeting on April 7th. April 7th, also, it will stream live on YouTube. We appreciate you joining. We appreciate the service of the reviewers. And that concludes our score deliberation for summer camp RFP. If the review team can just hang on for a minute, we would really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, I was trying to make sure it was just us.
Wait.
Yeah, give it a second.